the hidden agendas that impact our lives and uncover the secret societies and the shadowy elite who construct the reality that we are supposed to believe. So be there Saturdays, 2 p.m. Eastern Time, here on Studio A on Revolution Radio, and learn what's really going down.
Lost a little honey on the lone highway, left me for another on the lone highway. They killed dirty Don McGee on the lone highway.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, the #1 listener-supported radio station on the internet. Please help support this station so this battle can continue forward. Revolution Radio!
Do you feel as if you don't belong? Do you know you were meant for something more? Well, you were. Knowledge of who you are and where you really are from is within your reach. Join Janet Carolesson and Dr. Sasha Lesson as they search for the answers as they open up the Stargate to the cosmos.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Stargate Cosmos. And I'm your host, Janet Carolesson, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Alex Lesson. And our producer is Thomas Becker, also known as the Mad Painter. And you're listening to Revolution Radio Studio B. And today our guests are Bruce and Cornet. On daytime before. And please be quiet until I finish the opening. Please mute if you're not talking. And Susan Johnson. And so I have a long bio up there on the QuarianRadio.com for Susan Johnson and Bruce Cornet, and there's pictures. And we're not going to spend a lot of time on that before the show. We're just going to kind of get everybody on board. We have 4 here, and we'll get right to the topic at hand, which is Susan's experience as an experiencer, and also Bruce Cornet's experiences, UFOs, and what they are. Okay, Dr. Sasha, sound check. Are you there, sweetheart?
I'm here indeed.
Okay, did you get a chance to look at the show page? Do you have any questions or comments?
I looked at it. You did a good job, Janet. A good show page.
Okay, now I'm going to turn back my sound. I think it's too high. Okay. So I'm going to start with Bruce, because Bruce is the one that brought Susan to us. So welcome back to the show, Bruce Cornet.
Thank you very much, Janet, for having me back on.
Yes, what's been happening in your life? How did you find Susan Johnson?
Well, it was, I think, about 2 years ago. George Filer, of Filer's Files, he introduced me to Susan. He gave me her phone number and said, you need to contact her. And I did. And I was immediately inundated by her telling me her experiences. And I realized why George wanted me to get to know her. And she's been keeping me up to date with all of the things that have been going on from her end. And we've been sharing our experiences. And I felt that it was time for her to be introduced to your audience.
Thank you for bringing her to us. What do you want us to know about Susan before bringing her on from your perspective?
Well, she'll tell you a lot about who she is and how she came into this subject. She's known about her involvement for many, many years. And we're reaching a time where there's a lot happening in the world, and she has critical information about what is happening and why it's happening. And so I will pretty much leave that to her description.
Okay, so what I recommend for the first part of the show is that we kind of put Susan on the hot seat, and we're going to be asking her questions. We'll bring her on and let Susan begin describing a little bit about herself, but we're going to go round table here with you and Dr. Bruce and me and Dr. Sasha asking Susan questions to kind of keep the momentum going and pick up the voices a bit. So let me bring on Susan. Hi, Susan. How are you doing? Let me do a little sound check.
Yes. Hi, Janet. I'm doing good. I just got done painting.
Excellent. Okay. So why don't you spend about 10 minutes talking about how you got into this ufology as, I guess you're an experiencer contactee, and tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into this.
It started at age 7 in 1967 when I started having these, when I'd be asleep, I'd have the same flashback over and over again. And it was of me entering into the Earth's solar system, and we were in a ship, and we were bouncing off the Earth's gravitational fields, and then we went past the sun. And I know that we were going at the speed of light because the sun looked like a solid ball of rock. And then we entered into the Earth's upper atmosphere, and when we did, we were obliterated by a black hole. Now, how it occurred was the rest of my crew was a human Nyandan crew from the Ring Nebula and the Constellation of Lyra. I'm an Arkaron Nyandan hybrid from the same, that was the Ring Nebula in my past life. But I also went back and forth between the planet Arkaron and Cygnus and the planet Nyanda and the Ring Nebula and Lyra. Okay, what had happened was, because I'm a navigator, I specialize in different navigational systems up there. My neurology is different, and I am able to anticipate energy fluctuations before they occur. So as they're occurring, I'm interacting with them and counteracting their effects. Okay, well, I woke up and the rest of the crew was still in a slumber after we went through our third phase of reconversion. And then I said, Ekna, shift the mass to the black hole, not away from it. Shift the mass to the black hole. He shifted the mass away from the black hole, and we got obliterated by it. Because when it doesn't make any sense, but when you're in a higher form of dimensional physics and stuff, the classical physics breaks down. You know, it's a different total. It's not even quantum physics. It's silicon wave mechanics and light harmonic resonances. And then we got obliterated by the black hole, and then I was floating around. I remember floating around in the ethers. I remember it was all white and there was little black specks floating all around. And then I remember that I like boom, incarnated into this present human body, and I was born here. And I remember the doctors saying, "Welcome to the world." And I remember thinking, "What the hell? I don't want to be here." So then I woke up, and 3 days, after having that flashback, I woke up cross-legged like an Indian, facing the closet in my bed in a full-blown sweat. Every time I had that, they call it a dream or a flashback. What had happened was, I started doing a lot of studying. I had to go to the library at the time I went to a private school, Dearborn School. I studied every book on dreams, psychology, physics, relativity, quantum chromodynamics, particle physics, organic chemistry, inorganic chemistry. I was trying to explain what was happening to me. And at that time, there was no support groups or starseed groups or anything to give me any information. I had to find out all of this on my own. And then I had another scene where they would take me up and they would show me my true Arkaron parents. And I had felt an immediate, very strong paternal bond to them or parental bond to them. And I didn't want to come back down. I would cry. I don't want to go back down here. Those are not my real parents. This is not my real family. My family's here. Why are you sending me back down here? Why are you punishing me? And then I remember them telling me, well, because you're a hybrid and you were created in utero, in vitro, and we took the contents out of the egg, and then we put your hybrid alien DNA from your past life body into the egg, and we did recombinant DNA splicing, and we mixed it in with the DNA contents from the human egg, and we put you back in the mother here, and you have to be here because you got a mission to do. And they showed me the cylinders. They showed it had a really shiny metallic chrome ring on the bottom, about maybe 4 inches, like tall, and the same thing on the top of the cylinder, and it was a clear liquid. And they showed other suspended bodies and suspended animation in those cylinders. And they said I was incubated in there for a while, and then they took my DNA, and I did and this is in 1967. I already knew what it was because they told me.
But what's your mission? They told you what your mission was, right? What's your mission?
Okay, they told me they would. I can hear my voice echo.
Turn your mic down just a hair.
Okay. They didn't initially tell me what my mission was until I was about actually, they didn't really tell me until I had already finished it. That's how they operate. They won't tell you what your mission is until you've already finished it. Okay. So back in my teen years and everything, I was doing a lot of so-called scout missions where I was awakening people to their true identity and reconnecting them to their prospective alien races that they came from. A lot of people were incarnated here and had lost touch with their ET races, and I had I was working with a scout crew of Nyendans, Yumo, and Arkarons, and we were waking up these people to their true identity and reconnecting them to their respective people. And that was in the 70s. And then in the 80s, we started doing recon missions where we were going to areas like Area 51, underground colonies and tunnels, mostly underground colonies in the four corner states. And we found out a lot of colonies underground that were dealing with different alien races that actually lived underground. And they got an artificial lighting in the ceilings underground that actually mimics actual sunlight. I don't know how they do it. It's some kind of prism effect or something. And then some of them were colonies and some of them were slave colonies. And then I found out later that there were some light pale blue beings that were working with with these other beings, and they were making sure that they were not abused or anything.
How did you get to these underground facilities? What was your
we beamed in
there?
We beamed in.
Beaming. And
yeah.
Don't they have any way of alert system of guarding themselves from people beaming in?
No, not against our technology, because our technology operates in the upper transcalar energy range, where there's very little harmonic interference, which you would register on your technology as an EMP or an electromagnetic pulse. We operate in the upper transcalar energy threshold regions, and we operate in a negative neutral quantum, which is a fancy way of saying dark matter or absolute energy. We can do phase shift like that, where we're in a multidimensional phase shift as a form of a Sultan wave, and we ride on the carrier wave that's a light harmonic modulated. We can beam in anywhere, and we can't be detected until we materialize. And even then, we can go in a 5-dimensional trans-phase shift where we're not seen. And a fancy way of saying invisible.
So you're not visible, but what can you do? Physical 3D things when you're there?
Yeah, we do. But when we become materialized to do the 3 to 4 dimensional, actual physical concrete work, and when we do, we have to be on the lookout, because they always have them going around the corners with their machine guns and stuff, and we have to go around the corner and beam out real quick once we get our little task done.
Wow. Okay. So what we're going to do here is go. Yes.
Wait a minute. Can they harm you with your astral body, or however you go there? Can they harm you with their rifles?
It depends on what dimensional phase shift you're in. If you're in a 3 to 4 dimensional phase shift, they can. Like right now, everybody here is in a 3-dimensional phase shift, right? If you're in a 4 to 5-dimensional phase shift, which we're usually operating at, no, they can't. But there's other lasers and stuff up there that the Star Wars Defense Initiative have up there that can shoot at us. And if we're not operating and what you call an offset harmonic resonance, it can affect our ships, but we have energy fields that offsets it and cancels out the harmonic surge. And what happens is I did get killed up there, and they let me remember that I got killed up there, and my body was laid wide open and on the left-hand side, and I was laying on the slab. I was dead. And this was back in like 2016. And I was laying on the slab, and my soul was anchored in the back of Yissaron's head. And Yissaron, because he's my twin soul, my soulmate, he was at the control console, and you see the one-way looking glass, and they were looking at the operation room. There's 2 or 3 different alien races. Well, I know them all. There was the Urquequians, the Chobacon, the Arkaron, and our Magnetron from Ruvawa and Cygnus X1, and they were working on me. And it was like Jaws, the movie Jaws, and he takes a big bite out of your left-hand side between your breast and your hip. The whole side was missing. And what they did was that was because it was a laser attack. So apparently they must use some directed particle beams or directed energy beams or hadron laser. I know a little bit about that because I used to be a nuclear contractor, and I used to look for jobs online a lot, and I would read the different job descriptions, and that's how I learned about some of this technology. They have directed particle beams, hadron beams, directed energy beams, which are actually just low-level transscalar energy waves. But anyway, one of them laid me open, and they did some synthesis on my body that caused the wound to seal up.
Is there a residual? Do you have scars?
Yeah,
Does it hurt there?
I do. I have a zigzag scar under my left breast.
Wow.
So who are these? Is this like the Federation? Is this Dark Fleet? Who are these people that you're working with?
They're definitely not the Ashtar Command. I'm questioning the validity of the Ashtar Command to begin with. But at the same time, we're an elite force that was called in. We're not really working for anybody. We're working for, there's different councils up there, and we all have council meetings like every day. And I guess it would be called the Planetary Council or Federation from Orion and Taurus and that region, because they initially called us in to help out before we came into Bhutan and the Crab Nebula back in before 1041 AD. We were called in, but there's several federations up there. There's the planetary federations. There's several councils. I don't know their names exactly. A lot of people claim they know their names. It's a planetary confederation. It's Star Trek, or it's the Ashtar Command. It's the Light Resistance Brigade or whatever. I don't know who all they are. I just know that there's different councils, and I know that there's different negative factions within each council because some of them have been infiltrated and compromised. And I know that there's been a lot of interference with our mission, but we're an elite group that was called in. We're like equivalent to the Navy SEALs.
So, Bruce, feel free to chime in. Maybe we can go around every third question, go back to you. So feel free to ask a question, Bruce. You're part of this too.
Well, thank you, Janet. One of the things I've been trying to do is learn from Susan all of the things that have happened, because much of the information that she talks about is new. I mean, she seems to have an encyclopedic knowledge of things that we're only getting bits and pieces of from other sources, and that is what's amazed me.
Do you have a question for her?
Basically, you talked about the Federation of Planets and things like that. I have been told that I'm connected with them somehow, and I told Susan about my background and history, and I've talked about that on your show before with my late wife Bonnie and her spirit. And you said something, Susan, that sounded something like a group that you've connected to. Is that correct?
I know that several councils and probably the Federation of Planets are part of the councils have called us in initially, and I know that their council seat is in Orion's belt, specifically Alnilam, the central star.
Okay, and you also mentioned the constellation Lyra, and I believe you talked about the planet Lyra. Is that correct?
There's a constellation of Lyra, okay?
Right.
And from what I'm understanding, and at first, back to my flashbacks and everything in my past life on Nyenda and the Ring Nebula and the constellation of Lyra. They're humanoid ovoid. No, formoid. Formoid means they look human, but they're highly evolved. They're dimensional. They're 4th to 5th dimensional beings, and their baseline are materialistic existence. And they're like they can access several dimensions above that. Humanoid, they're lucky if they can get past the 4th dimension, and their perception, consciousness, and interfacing with the universe. But Nyenda had both, and then there's the ovoids, which everybody calls them. Oh, okay, you're not going to believe this. I just looked up. And I just saw a big, bright, white, blinding white flash of light headed toward the catty corner backdoor neighbor's house, and it hid behind the trees just as I said that.
Wow.
Damned. What time is it?
What do you think what do you think that is?
I don't know if it's them, the negative ones monitoring me, like the evil global elite, the military industrial complex, and the negative ET scourge, or if it's one of my guys sending a signal. God, I'm not kidding.
Open yourself and notice what's coming in. See if you can focus on it.
Susan, where are you located right now?
I'm in my bedroom.
In what state?
Miami, Florida.
Good. I wanted people to know where you were calling from. And you're living in a house with your family, correct?
Yes.
But you don't get along with your family very well.
No, I don't. And I think I never used to believe in demon possession. I never used to believe in exorcism. I never used to believe in any of that stuff. But I've seen several things myself firsthand to know that it's true. And I know that we're fighting this too.
Right. And you told me that as we get closer to the date of when there will be this major transformation, I think you called it the pulse, that will remove the negative entities from this planet. And it's pretty much goes along with the concept of the tribulation and end times. And,
exactly.
And that we're very close to that. And as we get closer to that, you're going to be under attack, correct?
That's exactly right. And I'm a little bit, truthfully, uneasy and scared, actually. And I know I'm not one to prone to fear very easily at all. But I'm the only one here for my people. I'm the only one physical body on this planet for my people. And it makes me very vulnerable. And I'm aware of it, believe me.
But if you have already completed your mission, your primary mission, have they told you what your mission is now?
From what bits and pieces of information and different things that have happened to me and stuff, the only thing that, I'm working with several what they call leaders and commanders of different warrior races that are allies right now. I think I'm here to finish up the war and stop this war on this planet that's been going on for eons since the very creation of this planet. And I think that the most of the evil scourge that's here is cornered. And I think that they were a bleed over from another universe that was collapsed on the backside of Draco. And it was weird how this was brought to my attention. Okay, I went to this because I have Asperger's syndrome. I went to the University of Miami Center for Autistic and Related Disabilities. They have a meeting once a month called Social Gain, where different people with different on the autistic spectrum, they all meet and they have games and they watch videos and they eat pizza. Well, there was this guy who showed me this book. He was a little bit flaky, but he showed me a book called We the Arcturians. And I opened up, and there's a theory that says if you just look at a book and you don't think about it and you just open it up, it'll automatically open up to the page that you're meant to read. And so I tested that idea. And so I opened up this book, and the first thing it described was that there was another universe on the other side of Draco, and it was collapsed because it was rife with negative, destructive, parasitic, vampiristic entities that was sapping the life force out of all the living beings in that universe. And what had happened was some of them fled over into this universe and they went through Draco. And some of the lower evolved reptilian beings and the human beings were dominated by these disembodied entities and controlled by them. And a lot of them incarnated into these physical human bodies on the lower dimensional races. And that would explain why some of the reptilians are negative and why the human race is a botch job. Not on other planets in the universe, but mostly this Earth. And apparently the entities that are here, I think it hit me between the eyes as us being the ones that collapsed the other universe. And if that's true, then we would have to come in and clean it up and finish it off and clean up the evil. That's the only thing I can think of. And then through my life,
how did we collapse the other universe? How did we do this?
Energy.
And who's we that did it?
Us. Our factinum, universal being, alien beings. Us. They are factinum or factinum order.
What do you look like? You drew some pictures of the beings that you represent, correct?
Yes, there are offshoot races of our main race that came in.
And they're on Aquarian Radio's website, correct?
Yeah, a lot of the drawings are. I guess if they want to look at them.
Yeah, go to aquariumradio.com and you can see. But so describe what you look like.
And
how would you describe it?
There's 2 or 3 states of being that I take on. There's one, you might see it in the one drawing. The one drawing is a yellowish face with black lines on it. That's us when we're in our pure golden light state of being, and we're floating around the accretion ring, and we actually give off light. We're solid physical bodies, but we're giving off light. Okay, and it's a goldish light state of being, and that's on our ships. And then sometimes when we are back home in our factinum universe, our home world, we float. We can actually float around our sun like that. And then
so you're not an air breathing being at that point, correct?
Yeah, we are.
Or you are.
There's a lot. That's the other thing about the New Age movement that's a lie. Everybody thinks that if you become more of a highly evolved energy being, you no longer need a physical body, and that's not necessarily true, because I found out from firsthand experience the physical body actually can give off light, and I've done it.
Sasha, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Ask a question. We're going Robin, or make a comment.
Well, okay. Well, I'm struck with a sort of a primary dualism. Like there's no working it out. There's no compromising. There's no synergizing with other forces. In your presentation, I get it. It's sides, the good guys and the bad guys. Do I got you right?
Unfortunately, on this lower dimensional plane, on this domain, that's the way everything is polarized and dichotomous. On the higher dimensional planes, everything is dualistic and trialistic. When we're dealing on the lower dimensional planes, we have to eliminate the polarity and the dichotomy by eliminating the evil. Once you eliminate the evil, the veil is going to be lifted off of the eyes, and everybody will begin to see that the true nature of the universe is as a trilogy. Not a duality is the main operating principle, but the trilogy is the final determining factor in which direction the system goes. It's like a seesaw on the playground. You got the fulcrum in the middle, and you got one person on one end and one person on the other end of the seesaw. That's an example of trilogy. And then they have another thing that says, okay, you got two sides to every story. No, there's three sides to every story. There's your side, my side, and the truth. You see, everybody has lost touch with the trialistic nature of the universe. On the lower dimensional planes, unfortunately, because of the parasitic negative ET scourge and the scavenging all the resources, everything, what you're getting is it's either positive or negative, up or down. You're getting that polarity because it's you against them, and that activates that lower dimensional principle. But when we come in, we're not just dealing with, no, my people, where we come from, everything is trialistic, and everything is based on the ontological basis of being an identity. It's not based on, but unfortunately, in order, you got to fight fire with fire. You got to fight it on its own level. I guess that's why some of us take on physical human bodies when we come here. And at the same time that we're fighting and destroying the evil entities and stuff, we're also doing planetary creation work. We're also doing geomancy. We're also rescuing people from other worlds that have lost their planets. We create the planets and we supplant the different races to that given planet when it's planetary identity.
What is geomancy?
It's dealing with the planetary energies, and it's dealing with redirecting the planetary energies using different resonating energy points and ley lines and intersections of those ley lines and vortices and stuff. And it's dealing with the planetary, like redirect the ley lines, planetary energy, making different geometric forms to harness different types of planetary energy and stuff like that. Well, we do that too, but we also do, in our language, extra. We activate the simple. What?
I'd just like to interject. You looked at my video called The Wooden Pyramid, the Magnetron.
Yes.
That's on YouTube, and where my friend Walter Bartu was told by his ET contacts to build this magnetron and put it on a specific crossing of ley lines where there was a lower, the energy was not balanced, so that it would pull energy from the sky down into the earth and rebalanced the earth at that point. And he invited me down to North Carolina to Stone Mountain, and I witnessed it actually sucking clouds right out of the air down into the earth. It was quite spectacular. And my YouTube video it shows all of the details of this from 1995. So is that something that would be a description of what geomancy is about?
Yes, that is an example of geomancy.
Thank you. And Janet, did you put that link on your webpage at all?
I
sent you those
I'll have
links.
to go look. I will go check. But we'll
Because
make sure.
all right. It relates to what Susan is saying.
But we also deal in the central planetary energy vortices. In other words, if you take the flower of life diagram that they found on the walls in Abydos, Egypt, and you study it, it's a very complicated diagram. It's a sphere. Well, that's basically the type of systems that we use. We use spheres and stuff. And by changing the configuration of the solid steradian angles in that sphere, you can change the distortion pattern uh, of the elliptical field, and then you send a beam through that elliptical field, a light 1 to 3 dimensional solid wave, and you send it to the targeted planet, and it goes into the center of the planet, and it could correct and make corrections on the central planetary energy vortex. And then what that does is that stabilizes the central planetary energy matrix such that you can get a stabilized planetary identity configuration. And once you do that, then you could supplant the race there, the colonies there that have the same spirit or soul identity or soul matrix and the same biomatrix that will match the planetary matrix. That's how we do colonization and supplantation.
Sasha, are you with us? Your turn.
Yes, I am. It's interesting. It seems to me that the same principles really go through within as without, and so that in psychology, it's like being able to embrace the opposites of any dichotomy, say the giver and the taker within you, or the follower and the leader, etc. Your different subpersonalities, and so as you mature, you're able to embrace the opposites and center yourself, which is exactly the process that you're explaining about how you transcend and find the third dimension that ties together the polar opposites. That in fact, that's what a dimension is. So it's just the same within psychology as the metaphysical that you're describing. That was my take, anyhow.
Okay, there's a difference between polarity and dichotomy and dualistic. On the seesaw, you got a dualistic system. You got the up and down, to and fro, back and forth, whatever. But it's the same system. Well, every being has a dualistic nature, whether in their higher dimensional beings or the humans on the lower dimensional planes or whatever. They all have a dualistic nature. Now, that's what that's where you're all getting confused. The warriors that we're light energy warriors, light warriors, whatever you want to call us. We're benevolent. The true definition of warrior is a person that protects innocent life, fights for virtue and honor and principles and morals, tries to restore stability to a system, helps other people along the way, usually goes through a lot of hardship themselves, learns how to circumvent any obstacles and severe catastrophes. And in the process, they prevail and they succeed. And in the process, they help others that are suffering the same fate along the way. Like we lost our planet in Bhutan. It went supernova and became the Crab Nebula and the constellation of Taurus. This is when we first came in the universe. And then we went from there and we learned how to create other planets to help other races that have lost their planet to go to a new planet. And then we ourselves have like 3 or 4 planets in our domain. And in other words, on the one side, we're a warrior, but on the other side, we are also light master energy creator beings that create a lot of different systems.
What strikes me is that it all started with the word fight. And it just seems like that's the problem.
Well, it comes down to this. The main operating principle there is self-preservation. Every living thing has a sense of self-preservation. And every system tries to reach a state of equilibrium. So, yeah, you have to, in some instances, you got to fight your enemy if they're going to attack you and destroy you. If they're intent on destroying you, you got to fight. You got to defend yourself. In other instances, it could just be a matter of compensating for a flaw or compensating for an instability or trying to solve a problem, but it's not necessarily fighting.
I just love
into this. There's no alternative, which is you can friend instead of fight.
That depends on the entity that you're dealing with. If the entity you're dealing with is sadistic and visceral evil, you can't friend it. If you got a patient laying on the table and it's got cancer, you don't try to friend the cancer and change it into normal cells. You remove the cancer to save the patient. There's a difference.
So what made this such a violent system with this extreme polarity that everything is a fight? Do you know how that originated?
Yeah.
This
Yes.
is the operating system of our universe. Polarity.
Okay. This planet, this specific planet, and this system, and this solar system, and this region, this specific planet Earth is a very hotly contested piece of real estate for various different reasons. Number one, it's in a strategic navigational point in this universe where several adjoining universes are converging onto the fast track streamer that's going just past the Earth. You can access that fast track streamer by creating wormholes or streamers or vortices to go straight up into the system, into the fast track system. And then you can access those other universes. You got the negative ET tall whites, the negative grays, the negative reptilians, and anybody in between that's a negative scourge and parasitic entities that want to control this piece of real estate, because if they control this piece of real estate, they can control all access from all the other universes, number one. Number two, this planet, if you look at a soccer ball, and I have to use analogies because I don't know how to explain it simply. And you got the black spots on the soccer ball, and you got lines going from those black spots. That forms what you call a matrix. Well, the Earth and the other Earth-type planets throughout the universe have streamers going to all of them. It forms a matrix. Specifically, that matrix resonates at the lower baseline light harmonic resonance region of this specific universe, and that governs all physical reality throughout the whole universe. If you go from Arkaron, if you go to Cygnus, if you go to Tau Ceti, if you go to Earth, if you go to Hydra or anything, anywhere else in the universe, the physical reality is the same. The only difference is the light harmonic configuration in that specific dimension, in that system, or on that planet. But the physical reality, which is what they call the baseline harmonic, and the Earth is on the critical focusing point of that baseline harmonic, or the matrix. If they control this Earth, they will control the whole matrix, the whole physical reality, and they will do the same thing to this universe they did to the other one. And that's why, and the Earth is of extreme biodiversity, extreme climate diversity. Various different types of races can live here comfortably. And this is why they want to control it so bad.
Right. Well, that's similar to what Errol the Grey said in the alien interview tapes. So I'll have to compare notes there. But it seems like you're converging on the same information. So you're still, what is your existence like? I mean, you're living here as a human. How do you balance all of this information? Because this is way more than most experiencers get. You're getting information on an extreme high level. How do you manage to operate as a normal human being?
Trust me, they can't stand me. I can walk into a room and clear out the room without saying anything. I can't really function down here because I've been blackballed, I've been blocked, I've been blacklisted, I've been labeled as a person of interest, a threat to the deep state, and they won't let me work. So I'm on disability. I mean, right. I want to function here, but I have a lot of intelligence. I have a lot of knowledge. I could be very useful. I could excel at some of my ideas. A lot of our ideas, a lot of alien hybrids are going through the same thing. There's a vast potential that could be tapped. It would accelerate this human race, and not only in the Star Trek, but beyond. But the evil global elite don't want that to happen because they would lose their grip on the human population. As a result, I'm all pent up. It's all pent up inside of me. I operate in a higher energy resonance configuration because even though I'm here on the Earth, I'm still directly coupled with the planetary rhythm of Arkaron. And so I'm resonating at a higher planetary energy. And that interferes with the magnetic energy fields around my aura body and around the other humans. They can't stand me. I do.
But they're giving you disability income, so they want you to be alive. They could have starved you. But
no, exactly. I'm aware of that.
So what do you think's going on there?
My people are looking out for me. That's what that is. They pulled they pulled the proverbial energy strings to make certain things happen so I could get this disability.
So they have power here. Your people have power on this earth. They're not just observers or witnesses. They're actually able to influence you.
Oh no, we're not observers. We're extremely proactive.
Okay. And what are they doing? What are some of the things they're doing to, who are they assisting? Which faction? What are they backing? What are they doing?
Okay, we don't really back anybody. We came in as a separate authority. Reason being is because we come from a very highly evolved universe with a binary light harmonic resonance system. This universe has from what I'm understanding, it's just a one singular light harmonic resonance configuration. The universe we come from either has a binary or a trinary light harmonic resonance system. And because we're master energy creator beings and we can go back and forth between light, quasi-physical, physical, and everything, and we're like a war council and everything, we have a higher authority even over even a lot of the local universe councils here. So we come in, we don't work for anybody else. We work with them, not for them. We're under our own governorship and we're under our own command. Or we operate as an independent entity.
Do our humans know about your people and your faction?
No, most of them don't.
Any of them? Does the U.S. government know?
Oh,
They know now.
Yeah, obviously, I'm been blocked. I can't get jobs in electronics or physics. I can't get jobs in the nuclear. I can't get any kind of job in computers because they see me as a threat. I'm always the helicopters fly over, and according to Mary Rodwell and me, they monitor our energy patterns all the time to see what we're up to next. And how I know that we must have had a really good day up there battling the secret space stuff, which is controlled by the negative ET tall whites and the evil global elite. There's a positive faction within the secret space fleet, but most of them are being controlled, manipulated, and it's not really the human secret space fleet at all. It's the negative ET tall whites and the negative grays, and they're allowing the humans, the evil global elite of this planet, access to their secret space fleet, and they're allowing them to take credit and claim that it's their own when it's not. And in exchange, they've lavished them with gifts and everything like that. In exchange, the evil negative ET scourge is telling the evil global elite this is how they infiltrate different planets. They will lavish the elite with gifts and everything. They'll allow them access to their secret space fleet, and then in exchange, they expect that ruling class of that planet to go ahead and control and subjugate their planetary population. And that way they can use them as a commodity, they can use them as slaves, and they can use them as a barter chip on the table when you want to go to war or something. Well, you can't wipe out the humans. We got the Prime Directive. That's another pet peeve of mine. The Prime Directive is very distorted. It's not the original Prime Directive is not what Star Trek says. I mean, they want to use this race as a commodity.
So what is the real Prime Directive? You're saying it's being warped, but what is it? Is there a Prime Directive, and what is it? It's not what you're.
It's based on
non-interference clause.
It's based on the universal laws of being and identity. It's based on the cosmological, ontological basis that governs creation and being and identity, the individual. You can be exposed to all kinds of technology. You can be exposed to all kinds of information and ideas. But specifically, you are not to be interfered with when it comes to your own path of evolvement, when it comes to your true planetary identity, And when it comes to your true spiritual path and identity, that is not to be interfered with. You can be exposed to all the other world technologies you want. You can have all the different information and everything you want, but you are not allowed. You should not be influenced by outside sources to change your spiritualism, change your psyche, or try to change your identity, or interfere with your planetary identity or your planet. That's the true Prime Directive.
And how has it been distorted?
How it's been distorted is, according to Star Trek and all the other flaky. And now I'm seeing a nice big bright light coming toward my window. It must be a helicopter. They don't want this out. I just shot a birdie at it. Okay. No, the distortion comes in when they twist the wording around and they say, okay, well, you're not allowed to expose the Neanderthals or the more primitive races to technology and information or customs of other races, because what you're going to be doing is disrupting their evolvement process or interfering with their cultural customs and stuff. No, that's not true. Yes, there's been cargo cults and everything that have developed around planes that have landed and given them supplies and stuff, but their true spiritual beliefs and stuff should be unaltered. I mean, that's the norm in the rest of the universe. They even have cultural exchanges where different races, they live among each other, they exchange ideas and technology, but their true spiritual identity is not altered. But that's what they think. They distort it by saying, oh, well, if you give these primitive people technology, or if you give these primitive people the new ideas, you're distorting their development, and therefore you're interfering with them as a species. That's not true. That's a lie.
Sasha.
There. It feels, yeah, can you hear me? It feels to me like it's two ways, and that the other beings that contact experiencers are learning from the experiencers too. That we have some special light and some special energy that is treasured by other beings.
Okay.
Is that true?
There's several. Okay. Initially, from what I'm understanding, the human race was created, again, to be what you call a placeholder. That's why they said that initially they were supposed to be responsible stewards of the planet. Initially, the human race was created to be what they call a placeholder of what you call the baseline harmonic resonance of this universe. They have the ability to be multidimensional beings. Because they have various types of DNA, what other people call junk DNA, in their genome. They have the ability to become more activated. Now, that's one thing. The human race was actually supposed to be a living library of various different types of DNA from other races on this planet, because this planet is like a living library. It has a lot of different life forms on it, a lot of different plants, a lot of different ecosystems. So that would make sense. But the human race in of itself was supposed to have a stabilized planetary identity, and that was screwed up. That's where the Prime Directive was violated. And that was by the negative ET tall whites. And they've done it to other worlds, and I remember them from my past lives. We had to run them out of there and annihilate them. We had to crash the mainframe computers on the other planets. And when we did, the race would walk around disorientated, delirious, waking up and not knowing where they are or anything. I know we had to send in their sires that had seeded that race to try to get them back on track to their true identity. So I know I got off track. I think, okay, so that's an example of how the negative ET scourge manipulates human type races, because they're lower dimensional race and they're easily manipulated. Okay. The next source of the humans came from another planet in the fifth dimension that was polarized, where the natural wildlife was more violent, and the humans were very passive and docile, and very amicable and very friendly. They took a population from there, a colony, and they put them here on this planet. Another source of the humans came from the Palladians and the Lyrans. From what I'm understanding about the wars that happened in Lyra, our people ended the war in Lyra, and it was going on for millions of years. And then some of them came here. And another source was, of course, the Anunnaki and everything, which is the name of a council. It's not a name of a race. It's a name of an actual council.
Mm-hmm.
And
we're
also,
coming up break. But let's hold this thought here, because the music's coming any second now. So we'll talk about the Anunnaki and Council and the other different factions of our existence. So I think we're at the break in about 30 seconds. Somebody just finish it until the music comes on. Go ahead.
Well, I tell you, the question really comes with it, with the helicopter flying overhead, is, are you being taken by the military too, and how do they treat you?
No, I have not had a MyLab abduction at all. No. Thank God for my people. They fiercely protect me. But I've been shot at 3 times by a laser here on this planet, and the beam was blocked. The same beam that would have killed somebody else. The same beam that laid open Philip Schneider, that geologist, his whole side was laid open. A blue beam.
See you tomorrow.
Listen to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
The future is uncertain. I know this. Death is inevitable. I know this. But one thing is certain. As free men, it is our right to live unencumbered and in peace. And those times are quickly drawing to an end. And in these times, peace is certainly an illusion. And as the chains grow tighter, our ability to slip those chains increase incrementally with every passing moment. Inaction is no longer an option. It's time to raise our voices like a cacophony of thunder and lightning, and tell the masters no more. And this is Nighthawk, and I say, for myself, no more. Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, because the freedom is slipping away.
Hello, my name is Mr. Rowe. I am the host of Reality Extraction, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. I utilize logic, intellect, and magic to methodically autonomize, vivisect, analyze, examine, study, scrutinize, and extract an essence of reality from a fog of illusion and confusion. You can find me on Studio B every Thursday, 1700 hours Pacific Time. That's 8 p.m. Eastern. No topic taboo, no subject too strange. I strive to take a neutral standpoint during the dissection of the topic at hand. That's Reality Extraction with Mr. Rowe on Revolution Radio.
anarcho-syndicalist commune. We take it in turns to act as a sort of executive officer for the week. Yes. But all the decisions of that officer have to be ratified at a special bi-weekly meeting. Yes, I see. By a simple majority in the case of purely internal affairs. Be quiet. But by a 2/3 majority in the case of more... Be quiet. I order you to be quiet. Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left. Yes, I have. Look, it's just a flesh wound.
I don't believe I've seen such a display of courage, skill, nerve, grace, and stupidity.
I'll do you for that. Oh, what? Come here. What are you going to do, bleed on me? I'm invincible. You're a loony. The Black Knight always triumphs.
Roundtable Live, Monday through Friday, 1 a.m. till 4 a.m. Eastern Time. Bring your mind, bring your ideas, bring your voice. King Arthur had nothing on us here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com.
Did you ever feel that things were not quite right? That everything was just ever so slightly askew?
Do you have, to paraphrase Morpheus, a splinter in your mind?
If you're interested in hearing the latest information about UFOs, the paranormal,
ancient cultures and structures,
monatomic elements,
longevity,
fantastic discoveries in science,
downloaded to your brain,
then tune into us. Hi, I'm Dave.
And I'm Mackie.
And we are Shiny Side Out, Sundays 2 to 4 a.m. Eastern. See you then.
Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. You don't need to expect us. We're already here. All right. Thanks for listening while we took that short break here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com. And now we're going to get back to your host.
Aloha and welcome back to Stargate to the Cosmos. And I'm Janica Lesson. It's Dr. Sasha Alex Lesson. Our producer is Thomas Becker, also known as a Mad Painter. And you're listening to Revolution Radio Studio B. And today we're here with Bruce Cornet and Susan Johnson. And we're talking about extraterrestrials and the design of the universe and everything imaginable. But before we get back to our show, I'd like to remind you to please go over to the donation button on revolution.radio and go up to the top left tab and make your donation for today's show, or go over to the Patreon button and make your recurring donation. We do appreciate your donations. Help us keep the lights on and pay the bills. Okay, Sasha, Dr. Lesson, are you back from your coffee break?
Yes, indeed. And if we're coming to end times, you can ask yourself, when are you going to become the person you really want to be? When are you going to do what you really want to do? When are you going to be kind? When are you going to be, right now, what are you going to do about your life this day?
Okay. Yeah, remember, just one talking at a time. Feedback. Yeah, so go ahead, Susan, answer that question.
When am I going to be what I really want to be? When I get taken off this planet and get taken back home to Arkaron, where I belong, where I can integrate where I belong, where I'm accepted, and I can resume my rightful position on council and among my own society up there, where I'm loved and accepted, and where everything is harmonious and integrated in a dynamic dimensional energy state of being. I can't be anything I want to be here. I can't be my real self here because I've been inhibited and blocked and blackballed and restricted from this so-called human population, society.
Okay, Bruce.
Thank you.
What do I want to be?
Yeah, if you respond to what Susan said, or respond yourself, or get a dialogue here. So go ahead.
Well, if I could, I would want to have the power to be able to bring about positive change and to get rid of all of the negative stuff that's going on. And probably the only way I could do that is if I had abilities that are I don't have.
Okay. Anything else?
Just that I'm 74 years old and probably don't have much more than 15 years left. And I would like to make sure that I can get my experiences out there for other people to learn about and to benefit from.
Okay. Do you have a question
Janet,
for anybody
Janet,
else?
Janet, what about you? What do you want to be when you grow up?
You know, I think I'm doing it. I'm a radio show host, and I talk to all these wonderful people, and I've written 10 books, and I have an incredible husband and cats, and you know, I identify with and recognize my multidimensional self, and I access many of my avatars when I'm asleep at night. I remember many of my past lives in incarnation here and on other worlds, and I remember many of my experiences I've had that the powers that be try to mind wipe me, and they've just come back over the years because I'm a ornery old soul, and I just won't let it happen. But the more I'm in the moment, the happier I am, the more I get, into what's going on out in the world. And, I get stressed, I get depressed, I get upset. But I just enjoy my emotions, whatever they are. And I go, isn't that interesting? I'm a human being, and I get to experience all these incredible emotions. I don't have to act out on them. I don't have to go kill somebody. I don't have to, do mean things. I can always reel myself in and course correct and say kind and loving things and do kind and loving things, and just have some empathy and compassion for this experiment called Earth, because I think in some level it's creating a acceleration for the totality of existence. And so I'm honored actually to be a part of this, although some days I don't like it, and sometimes I get up and I go to talk to Sasha and listen to the morning news, and then I say, I'm going back to bed. So I do have my emotional reactions to everything, and that's about the best I can do. Sasha, what about you?
I'm a transpersonal existentialist. I am totally happy and grateful and thankful for my existence, and I've been blessed. I just can't believe how great everything is, and I love every moment of it. And the challenges that we feel from our resonance to the suffering people feel are just our callings to extend our love and feel our oneness with others.
Okay, now do you have a question for the panel, or do you have more questions for Susan, our special guest?
Susan, how can
or Bruce, you can go. Either one. Go ahead.
Susan, what changes do you think you could need to be able to accomplish more of what you are doing and what you are trying to accomplish in this lifetime? How can others help you?
Number one, I'd like to have 5 acres of land. I'd like to have enough money to build a geodesic dome home so I can do my own landscaping and everything. So I'd be living by myself where there's no interference. And number two, I want to be able to have a job where I think that I can work in a technical field, which I studied for, so that I can feel productive and without any penalties from the Social Security disability or anything from it. And number three, I want to be able to physically see my people in solid physical form every day and be able to go back and forth between here and Arkaron through the portal every single day so that I don't feel so disconnected from my people. As far as making change to the planet, I think just my presence here, I was told I'm a transceiver of energy and information. And a few times I've been pulsed where the energy goes through the planet and it causes a correction. I do a lot of work up there in the ships where we work on, when I'm asleep, I go up, where we work on the planets, we fight the enemy, we do all types of stuff. I'm doing a lot of the work now, but it's behind the scenes.
In my explanation of the things that I was hoping to get out of this life, I think I've accomplished most of what my mission was. And I've told you about this. And I seem to have had many past lives that go all the way back to the beginning of humanity. And I'm a very old soul, like Janet says she is. And I was introduced to some of the entities or beings that I knew in when I was off planet in those previous lifetimes. And my being here is part of the completion of a long cycle. So I'm at the end of a major cycle that is seemingly timed to what is happening in this world. And I've been tied to biblical scripture all along that way. And the beings in our scripture going all the way back to Abraham and Moses and John the Baptist and Jesus, etc. All of those I've been involved with at one time in my previous lives.
In my previous lives, I come from the Refactinum or Factianum universe. We are solid physical beings. We are more ovoid looking, but we do have the tentacles on our chins, and we got the spiked jaw lines. And we have what I call the Arkaron glands that goes behind the jaw line, but underneath the earlobe. And we got bumps on us because you were asking me what I look like earlier, and I was explaining what our true form looks like. And we got red dots on us, like along the hairline. We got specific symbols on our body, like white tattoos indicating our status, our mission, and I figured out the tattoo on my ankle is my mission. Okay, so then that was 1982 when I got that. I had actual experience. I got that tattoo on my ankle. And that was my mission, or Factianum, universe, elders, and also the warrior. It's a symbol for warrior and the spiritual description of this one website I went to. We came in through Orion's belt, and we settled into Budokan and the Taurus. And then when Budokan, when the star went supernova, all the rest of our people left and they went to Cygnus, and we had to stay behind. My group, my specific soul group, my crew, who have been with me all my life, they had to stay. We had to stay behind, and we had to send a neutral energy through the star to stabilize its center, so that when it exploded, we could redirect the beam, the pulsar beam, away from the life vein in this universe, so it didn't wipe out all the life. And then, but we had to leave just at the last split seconds, and we didn't make it out on time, and our ship got obliterated. And it was an Orion ship that picked our souls up, and they had bodies and suspended animation under ship and cylinders, and they reanimated us. And then we finished the rest of the journey to Cygnus, which only took like 3 days or something. And then from there, we went to Nyenda because we were going to settle the planet. And unbeknownst to me at the time, there was an ongoing war there. And there was a lot of the negative ET tall whites from the star Vega in the constellation of Lyra. And they came in and they hated any other different type of beings. They didn't like their features. They didn't like anything that looked alien. They liked humans. They liked the pretty boys on the block, so to speak. So there was an ongoing war, and we ended the war in Lyra. And then we went back to Arkaron, but at the last minute, we had to go back to Lyra. And that was when they sent me here, and that's when I got obliterated by the black hole here. That's basically my history.
I sort of remember you saying something about it's the planet is called Lyra.
No, Nyenda,
okay.
The planet Nyenda in the constellation of Lyra, and it's in the Ring Nebula. And I found out later on that the Ring Nebula was the center, was the hotbed, the center of all the wars that was going on in Lyra. Yeah. I've since met some of the Lyran beings, They're very happy. They're very peaceful, and they're explorers. And one of them asked me to correct the gyro system on her ship. And he did so by walking up to me and placing his hand on my right side below my breast but above my waist. And I automatically knew what he wanted. And I took my right hand, and I reached up above my head, and then I reached back with my fingers together, and I reached straight back behind my head, bending the elbow a little bit, like as this to point toward the gyro behind me. And then I reached my hand back up over my head again, and I touched the panel, and through me, the ship was able to correct itself. And then the Lyrans, the very peaceful ones, they were like 4'8" tall. They were a little bit ovoid, and they were white as skin. They took me back to their home planet, and they introduced me to their, because on most of their planets, they have a centralized leader. And they were very pleased with me, and they thanked me, and they showed me a little bit of their planet. And I think it's a white dwarf system. And then they brought me back here.
They sound like hobbits.
All the traveling is through wormholes. Is that correct?
Not all the time. Sometimes we do. Initially, if we're going to set up a system, we'll use the wormholes. We can use artificially produced wormholes, or we can do what they call, we'll take a silicon wave and we'll impregnate it with a resonating energy or harmonic resonance of a target that we want to go to. And then we will project that wave to that target, and it will materialize, and it will send a resonating energy implant to that target, whether it's a planet or a nebula or wherever. And then we can do harmonic resonance matching and instantly project from wherever we're at to that planet or that star system or whatever by literally walking through a door frame. That's one form of projection. Another form, if you got big carrier vessels and stuff, we do use the wormholes, but we have to do harmonic resonance frame matching. The third way of travel is through what we call impletacies, where you convert into a pure form of energy, which is a silicon wave. You ride the different streamers. That would be your wormholes. And we go from one system to another and then rematerialize. And usually that's the lower form of svarari, or traveling. And only the humanoids and stuff, the lower evolved races use that. We use the higher advanced forms of svarari, or navigational systems. Hello?
Okay. Hi. Yes, I just waiting to make sure we're done talking. Okay, so what do you want us to know, Susan? What's the most important things that you want us to know?
Our people, my people, we're doing a lot of work around the sun. Now, I sent you and I sent Bruce Cornet 2 videos. I sent one about the spaceweather.com, and I sent you another one about that Gina Maria on YouTube. What we're specifically doing, there's been a lot of SOHO satellite images and stuff of our ships going into the sun and out of the sun. And a lot of times you'll see a little, like a little tornado coming out of the sun and going into our ships. There's been a lot of paranoia, disinformation, hysteria, and fear-mongering over our operations. They think we're trying to sap energy from the sun. That's the furthest thing from the truth, and for me to hear that just infuriates me to no end. What we are specifically doing, just like all the cylinder ships that are going in and out of the volcanoes, that's the Arkaron ships. We are stabilizing the system. We are offsetting the osmotic pressure on the coronal surface of the sun, and we are minimizing solar flare activity, and we are minimizing the impact of the CMEs that are coming from the sun to the earth. In fact, I did a reverse psychometry session on myself. And I asked, what am I doing? What am I doing up there? And I got an image of a disc with concentric rings in it that was greenish, of me going into the ship, pulling out 2 power rods, holding them because it goes into my body, putting the power rods back into the console underneath. It's a gray console. Then going over there and touching my hands to the control panel and actually producing by projecting some of my energy to a sphere in the center of the ship, producing this concentric disc, and pointing it toward the sun. And by manipulating that disc, we were able to offset the toroidal magnetic fields, the unstable localized geoid patterns in the sun, which is pockets of magnetic activity, and we're able to minimize a super saturated buildup in different areas on the corona of the sun, so that we can minimize CME activity. Or we can redirect the CME to go away from the Earth and go somewhere else. Okay, that's what we're doing. And when you see the little tornadoes coming to the ship, what we're doing is we're siphoning off the excess pressure and tension, and correcting the magnetic field in that localized area to prevent a CME or a solar filament from happening. We're also stabilizing the center of the sun so it doesn't turn into a micronova, because yellow dwarfs typically turn into yellow micronovas. And there was a micronova burst, they said like 5,000 or 6,000 years ago, and it wiped out everything on the Earth. There was 3 major mass extinctions, and each one of them was associated with a micronova event. We're offsetting it. And yet you got the military, you got all this evil cabal and the global elite, everything demonizing us, villainizing us, saying that we're trying to cause earthquakes and tornadoes, or we're trying to cause volcanic eruptions. No, we're not. We're minimizing the tectonic pressures on the planet's surface, and we're minimizing the lava flows and everything to prevent a lot of stuff from happening. That's why you'll see us going in and out of the volcanoes and the ships, the sun, the fissures in the Earth, the fault lines, and everything. That's my main.
Can I ask you a question, Susan?
Go for it.
All right, Susan. One thing we haven't mentioned is all of the theories about Mars, and about how there were possible atomic explosions on Mars, and that there might have been wars that happened in the past. What is your knowledge about all of that?
Okay. Mars, yeah, that's another hotbed. My firsthand experiences on my scout missions and stuff is that we went to Mars, and we saw that there were several alien races that were being enslaved and tortured and forced into sex and labor slavery, and forced into army slavery. And they were being experimented on and stuff. And their planets were being scavenged for the resources, again, by your loving negative ET tall whites. And we had to go in there. And also the secret space fleet that the military industrial complex and the evil global elite runs. We had to go in there, and we had to wipe out the 5 human colonies that were on Mars, because they were evil. They were enslaving. They were exploiting other alien races on the surface of that planet. And we had to liberate those races and send them off to the colony ships. And then we had to round up what humans were left. And now we got the reptilians supervising the human colonies that are left on Mars. And one scene, which happened July, or actually June 15th of 2015, the scene was that we went up there and we were checking on the status of a human colony that was left behind on Mars. And we saw rebar, like 6 rebars, 9 rebars sticking out of one like the regular cinder block out of one, the cinder blocks has 2 holes in it. You would have like 9 pieces of rebar sticking out of each hole and the cinder block, and it was bent at a 90-degree angle. And Mars has a tannish colored surface. It's not orange. Some pockets are orange, but most of it is tannish colored, and it's a light grayish sky. And then when that happened, we went back there and we found there was another colony that's living up there right now that's run by the secret space fleet. And fortunately, we were able to get them to come on our side as one of our allies. So, and they live in regular CBS houses like they do down here. Most of the interior walls are painted pale blue. And there's some vegetation there, but most of it is underground. In the past, I think that there was 2 planets that were at war, and I think their outpost was Mars, and I think that's where there might have been atomic explosions and stuff. And I think that some of the negative Anunnaki came from Mars and came down here to Earth, and the war is continuing here.
Sasha, you have a question or comment?
No, I'm not really. I really want to go back and ask Bruce a question because it's. You said that you remember a past life as Jesus, and that totally fascinates me. And what I really want to know is what happened at the resurrection.
Well, I don't know if I had a past life as Jesus. I do know that I was very closely connected to him, and also to John the Baptist. Really, there are major questions that I have as to exactly what parts I played in all of that. And I was rather shocked when the spirit of my late wife took me back to Calvary, and I experienced what Jesus experienced on the cross. And the things that I saw and remember were very much like what you find described in Scripture. But at the same time, there was just simply no way that I could imagine my having been Jesus in the past, and now finding myself without any significant abilities or powers in this lifetime. It just didn't make sense.
Thank you. Yeah.
And back to the human colonies, before we went on that one break, I will say this much. Ancient Aliens, the series, they present all the different evidence, but they have lousy explanations. And their question, could it be from ET races? It gets so rhetorical and redundant. It's just infuriating. It's frustrating. It's aggravating. Anyway, there's been several places on the planet that have these rows of holes, and nobody can figure out what they're for. Well, based on what I said earlier about colonizing planets and helping other people colonize and supplanting different races and planet creation and everything, I think each one of those rows of holes on each of the continents was an algorithm, a mathematical representation of that specific DNA sequence that relates to that specific human colony, or maybe even an alien outpost colony that existed on that continent. But nobody has ever said it. I'm glad I'm able to say it on the air. I think each one of those rows of holes and each one of those continents represents a specific genome, either to the human race that was supplanted there, or colonies that existed on this planet and used it as an outpost before they left it and the human colonists were supplanted here.
That makes so much sense. It's just like Karnak. It makes that same kind of pattern with dolmens and stones sticking up too.
Yeah. And I don't think the pyramids were created by the Egyptians. I think that they were created by another race that came here long before the humans did. And Göbekli Tepe, it was created by the Oberkon race that comes from the planet Oberkon in the constellation of Taurus. And Odovar, who flies the octahedrons and the pyramid-type ships, his people, they created the pyramids, and they also created Göbekli Tepe. And the Ben stone specifically looks like one of Odovar's ships, a four-sided pyramid that flies around, and you got the smaller pyramids rotating around it like a solar system, and you see them all over critical focusing points in the planet. The Devil's Triangle, Bangkok, Beijing, Russia. Yeah, that's what I think, based on what I remember, which is like some of the beautiful cliff type architecture that juts out from the face of a cliff. They look like upside down ice cream. They look like ice cream cones cut in half, jutting out, or certain cylinders or rods cutting in half, sticking out of the side of cliff faces. And also on there is a planet called Picus, Picus, and I think it's near the Big Dipper. And it was an Earth-type planet, and there was humans there, and they were becoming very paranoid of the Obricon. We had to rescue them and get them off world. And the architecture that they built were those beautiful concentric rings and round circular buildings and cylinders coming out of the circles and everything. And that looks very similar to Göbekli Tepe.
So who are these tall whites? Where are they from? Where did they originate from? Yeah, why are they so nasty?
Because they're human.
So objectively, which one's nicer?
They're ET humans is what they are. And they're very parasitic. They're an example of a parasitic type of being that scavenges all different resources. Just like they blame us for sapping the energy from the sun, we don't need to. We're a very highly evolved race. We have closed, self-sustaining systems of travel. We don't need to sap resources from any given planet. We are not human. We are alien. And that's the definition of the word alien. Okay. Okay, you asked me about the tall whites, where they're from. They're from a star called Ara. They're from Andromeda. Some of them are from Arcturus, but not all of them. Some of them are from Pleiades. Definitely from the Anunnaki councils. Nibiru. The Nephilim, I think, they say, they were like the Watchers came down and had sex with the women, and the Nephilim showed up, which were the tall ones. No, I think the Watchers came down, had sex with the human women, but then I think the human women were taken up in the ships and manipulated, and had in utero and vitro where they had supplanted the tall whites into their embryos and set back down on the Earth. That's what I think. I think the tall whites are responsible for the flood. I think they wanted to wipe out the colonists that were here on the Earth that were coexisting with the humans. I don't think there was anything wrong. They come from Ara, Auriga, Andromeda, Arcturus, Lyra. Trying to remember the rest. And they're not to be trusted.
Why are they so dispersed? How did they get to be dispersed so much?
Because just like us, they have their empire also. But their empire consists of conquested planets. My people reclaimed 3 of them and liberated them and restored them to their pristine condition and allowed the native inhabitants to go back to their home worlds. I'm saying that there's maybe 5 to 7 left that we haven't conquered to liberate them.
Wait. Can I just find out a picture? When you talk about you're going to liberate and do all that stuff, what do you mean? Do you have a gun? Do you have do you shoot people? Are you on a computer? No. What do you do?
No. Energy, pulses, and harmonic resonances. And we can also vaporize souls out of total complete existence, and we've done it.
How do you do it?
Okay, if you have an electronic circuit and it's resonating at one frequency, and you you produce the same frequency, and you shoot it at that electronic circuit, you cancel out that frequency. That's one mode of what you would call cancellation. You cancel the frequency. Okay, and then you can send another frequency that can cause the atoms to disperse or vaporize or become airborne or whatever. Then he could send in another frequency where if you got two waves that meet each other, they cancel each other out. Well, that's how you
So
vaporize.
did you do that to someone?
Well, let me put it this way. From what I remembered in my past life, I did, and I don't know if I've done it here yet.
Do you have feelings about that?
Yeah, we're for the good. We're trying to eliminate the evil and protect the innocent life in this universe, on this planet. Protect the beautiful creation. We're trying to protect positive energies. We're trying to restore everything to its harmonious position. Yeah, my feeling is it's a patient laying on the table.
You feel proud. Uh-huh. You feel proud of doing you feel proud of doing your warrior duty. Is that what I'm getting?
Yes, I believe in what I'm doing very strongly.
Uh-huh. Got it.
We don't hurt innocent people. We don't hurt positive people. We do not hurt people. We don't hurt people that have not woken up yet or anything. We help a lot of other planetary races. That's our main objective. We travel, we explore.
What is what name do you go by? How would you like the listeners to know what race name you go by?
Well, originally we're a Factum or Factianum universe, or Cygnician, or we're from Arkaron, or you can call us a Chopacon Buddhatan Soul Group.
Okay.
So how far back do you have a memory to the beginning of this universe? How did we get into this mess in the first place?
Because this specific universe, from what I'm understanding, we didn't create this specific universe, but we do create universes, and we can collapse it, and we do dimensional synthesis, expansion, collapsing, planar dimensional lock-ends and coupling and all that stuff. Imagine a piece of paper touching a wall. That's a planar dimensional, that's a planarism. And that piece of paper is an extension from the fourth dimension touching the wall, which is the sixth dimension. Stuff like that. This universe, the way I understand it, is shaped like a capsule, like a Timex capsule, like a Tylenol capsule, sort of. And the other adjoining universes all touch on a certain surface, like a tangent to this universe. Because this universe, the way it's shaped, I think it was designed as an access egress system to these other universes. And that's another reason why this universe has had a lot of problems, because the evil, sadistic, parasitic entities would love to control this little system here. And I think we didn't create it, but I think that we restored most of the universe to its pristine condition. And now this last piece of region to be fixed is this Earth region. But the universe is both infinite and finite. Why? Because the universe is a soliton wave, and it sends off an energy field that goes on forever, obviously, because soliton waves can go on forever without any attenuation or without any loss of amplitude or without any distortion or anything else. That's why they use soliton waves. And then you got energy fields and various different. Anyway, the universe is just like, it's a hotbed, but most of it's been restored.
So one of the origin stories I heard was that the first two species were kind of the humanoid and then the draconian or Dracos or reptilians, and that was the first polarity. Is that something that resonates as true with you?
So what was the first one? The humanoid.
Well, the first two that in this creation story, which I think it comes from Stuart Swerdlow, and he was told the origins by the government. He worked for the government. He worked on the Montauk Project. He was in the Philadelphia experiment. He went overboard, like you described how you were born. He just found himself coming down the birth canal, and after he went overboard, he was a German scientist, and during the teleportation to the Philadelphia, what was it called? I forget the name of the ship. Anyway, he went over.
Eldridge.
The Eldridge, yeah, the Eldridge. He went overboard, and then he came back through the birth canal, and he found himself being born as Stuart Swervo. And so because of who he was, he got recruited into the Montauk Project. And so they are given the background of the origin story. And Sasha, you probably have read it more recently than I have. Anyway, so it's been duplicated and put out there by several people. But it was the reptilians and the original polarity. We have creation is oneness, and then it's like the polarity game began with the reptilians and humanoids. And then I guess go ahead, Sasha.
Ultimately, the logic has to be that if there's these different forces at play and are within the same playing field, they must be part of the same larger whatever it is too, and that there's no everything is part of the whole, including the parts you don't like.
Right. So back
just
to
like
Susan.
the only, and I know it's a poor analogy because I'm not a doctor or anything, but for some reason I keep going back to that. The only way that I can explain all of that is you look at a patient on the table. Do you want the disease to manifest, or do you want to kill it? The disease is the part of the patient, but it's going to kill the patient. You remove the disease. Do you want the cancer to metastasize? Do you want to see that you could return the cancer to a normal cell? Like trying to convert people into the light, trying to wake people up when they're evil, trying to make them convert and to become enlightened, trying to forgive people and give them second chances, or trying to show them peace, love, and happiness? Or do you want to eliminate those people or eliminate the cancer because it's parasitic and they will deliberately play a game? Evil is evil. It's so visceral and so cunning and so deceptive. It'll tell you, oh, I converted to the light side. Oh, I'm a light worker now. I'm a positive being. And they infiltrate the ranks. They find out all our secrets and they use it against us. They regroup. They say, oh, forgive me. And they beg for their life and we forgive them. And forgiveness is just a pardon ticket that buys them enough time to regroup and reorganize and attack again. If they're genuinely sincere and they genuinely made a mistake and they really are sorrowful and sad and they want to make amends, yes, we'll forgive them and help them. If they're evil, I can see the difference. No, we eliminate them. And what happens to the energy? The body is reconstituted into a form of dust that's used for planetary and star creation. The soul is annihilated out of total complete existence and reverted back to a pure form of energy. It's all a part of the system. It's just changing form. And it's eliminating the evil, the consciousness, of wiping out, totally killing off the soul entity itself.
Well, they describe that in Dr. Michael Newton's Life Between Lives information, that if a soul is unredeemable, when they die and they go on the other side, there's a committee that determines that soul should not be recycled back into sentient life forms. It's like it's not salvageable. So they send it back to source, to universal consciousness and oneness, and it's reconstructed into its, I want to say molecular form, but it might not be molecules. And then it comes back out into the system again, because energy cannot be created or destroyed, and neither can matter. So it all gets eventually recycled. So even if they are eliminated, they get recycled into source consciousness, universe, oneness. That's what I understand.
You're basically describing the same process from a different vantage point.
Right. So we all do that. We filter it and we try to explain it through our own minds. That seems to be pretty right on.
And there's a book by Andrew Collins called The Cygnus Mystery, and he talks about the ancient Neolithic cultures and about how they believed in Cygnus. and I don't remember all the like Seth and Toth and all that stuff, but apparently, or Horus or whatever, but apparently the Cygnicians judge according to the Neolithic belief systems. They judge a soul because all souls go back to Cygnus to be evaluated, whether they're redeemable or not, just like what you said. And it's the Dracos, if the soul is not redeemable, it's the Dracos that destroys the soul.
So in your system,
and that's sort of odd because Draco and Cygnus is in the same. Draco and Cygnus is bordering the what they call the Alpha Draconis portal, and we just reactivated it and partially opened it. My people. Why? Because there's more people coming in from other universes, and it's also an opening into the fast track system that we use for navigation to go to the other adjoining universes.
Okay, Bruce.
And yes. and the humans are the ones who cause the polarity, not the Dracos. The negative disembodied vampiristic entities from the other universe, and specifically the humans, are the ones that cause the polarization.
Okay. Have you contacted Colin Andrews at all?
Once or twice through Messenger. And
did he respond?
Yeah, he did. He said he had experiences and everything too, but he really didn't go into them. So it was like he was very aloof.
Non-committal.
Yeah, he didn't really want to say much or talk much.
Interesting.
Interesting.
And another thing,
Sasha,
I'd like to get a hold of Clifford Mahooty, because he said that his elders, Clifford Mahooty of the Zuni tribe, because he said that his ancestors, the star people, come from the Crab Nebula. And it's interesting because I had a scene where our people actually created a new Budokan planet in the Crab Nebula, and we go back there and we use it as our higher ascension planet to go from here to our home universe and stuff. And for like meditation and like a spiritual retreat and stuff like that, where we realign our true identity and stuff. So therefore, I'd like to get a hold of Clifford Mahooty about the Crab Nebula. I want to know what he remembers, if he remembers the Bujavist and all that stuff.
Interesting. In Colin Andrews' book, the Gobekli Tepe, he calls these beings that built those structures the Swigerians. Have you heard of that?
No.
And they're the long-skulled beings that were very intelligent and directed the humans how to build it. But that's
okay. Now,
in that
I don't know
book.
how reliable David Wilcock is, but it somehow resonated true with me what he said. And he had an expose on the Antarctica and on the findings in Antarctica. I have my own theory about that. And I also was there once in one of my scout missions, and they did have a Nazi base down there, and they were trying to indoctrinate other people. And they said I wasn't good enough. I said, yeah, screw you. And I said, I don't need this. We're superior than you. And we walked out. There is a small Nazi faction down there, but they're like more or less like a bunch of lip service. They don't really do anything. And then the technology I heard that they had hidden it in Antarctica, and they say it's hidden. It's a lot of technology in underground cities and stuff. I can tell you flat out right now that technology, because the tall whites run Antarctica, and they were the ones with the skulls, the elongated skulls, and they were specifically created by the Anunnaki to enslave and subjugate the human race. They were the ruling class. That's where the Egyptian pharaohs and stuff came from. And they say, oh, well, they come from Orion, or they come from this. Yeah, because they took recombinant DNA from the Orion races. What is that?
Who's making that noise in the background?
Don't know, but maybe we should mute if we're not talking. Okay, so you were talking about the Anunnaki made the large skull people.
Yeah, they did. Saying? From what I'm understanding, the Anunnaki. They were supposed to be the ruling class of this planet. They were supposed to be the ones to subjugate and rule and enslave the humans. And that's why they made the humans. That was where the fifth source of the humans came from. They made the humans to mine their gold for them. Oh, it just goes all over me what they did. Because they violated every protocol.
So large. Why did they make the skull so large?
To make them stand out from the other races. Because for all we know, maybe they were an advanced form of biodroid. Maybe they weren't really totally a sentient being to begin with. And then maybe when some of the other inhabitants bred with them, their skulls became elongated, but they weren't the true biodroids that the original ruling class was. I'm saying that because it's not, from what I remember in the universe, from what I've seen and what I've experienced, I never remember coming across any beings with elongated skulls like that. It just doesn't make any, it just doesn't feel natural to me. It just doesn't feel right.
Well, how do they come out of the birth canal when they're so huge?
Exactly.
Is that the difficult?
Or maybe they came out the birth canal when it was small and they got bigger. They grew as they got older.
Yes. So what about the story that they're the Homo capensis and they're in the Vatican? They're behind the Pope. They're what's really the force behind the Pope, Catholic Church. I had a person come on. That's what their theory. Have you heard that?
Homo what?
Homo capensis, and that's why they have large skull cap that the Pope wears. You know, so tall to hide the skull.
Okay, I've seen the Pope without the cap on, and he looks like a regular human. No,
right, but we're talking about going to the ancients. That's how the cap began. They continued the tradition, but it was originally, I guess.
Well, then that proves my other suspicion that the Catholic Church, the Roman Empire, and all the religions on the planet were specifically created, again, enslave and subjugate and dummy down the human race by using their own insecurities and their own fears and everything against their own psyche to chisel down and dismantle and render the human psyche defective. And the ones with the elongated skulls, the ruling class, the negative ET tall whites, are in bed with the militaries, the ruling classes of this planet, especially churches, because that'll influence everybody, because everybody has an inherent fear of death. And then they created a financial institutions to separate the human from their true sense of self-worth, which is supposed to be a spiritual, ontological, and introspection of self-worth and self-esteem and dignity and integration and self-oneness with the universe. That's supposed to be your sense of self-worth, your abilities, your talents, your values, your virtues, your character. And they created the monetary system as I know it was supposed to be a merchant exchange system, but they created a monetary system to effectively, and this is where the Prime Directive comes in. This is where the true Prime Directive was violated, because they systematically disenfranchised or denaturized or alienated the human from his own inner self by forcing them to measure their sense of self-worth by how much money they have instead of their true inner being, their true nature. And this is all done with especially the Catholic Church. Oh, and their crusades, and how they wiped out all that information and knowledge. And then I heard that some of the Library of Alexandria, that the Catholic Church was not the only one that was behind that. That there was like the Muslim crusades and stuff that did it too, to wipe out any knowledge that would empower the human.
We're almost out of time. So, final word, Bruce.
Thank you, Susan, for all of this explanation. I'm sure that most people listening have not heard this version of what you've experienced before, and might even have to listen to this recording of this interview again to be able to get the full amount of understanding of just how much information you have brought to our attention. I thank you very much.
I appreciate it. You're welcome.
Sasha, final word.
Yes, I am. I would like listeners to just know that, Susan's a model for all of us. Reality is an elephant that we grasp from many angles, and everybody's angle gives us something to see. And just be as idiosyncratic as you are, because you got something to share too, just like Susan does.
Okay, Susan, final minute or two to you.
I'm glad that I had the opportunity to share the information. Maybe it'll enlighten people to our true benevolent nature, and that we're not bad. I don't know about the Ashtar Command and all that stuff that's going on, but the New Age movement has been infiltrated and compromised by the evil global elite and stuff. And there's a lot of beliefs in there that are false. And some of them I tried to bring out with the mentioning the Prime Directive and stuff like that. And they'll see that we're not trying to.
We're out of time. Thank you so much, Susan, Sasha. Hold on.
Thank you for listening to Revolution Radio.
Most guys freeze. That's your cerebral cortex looking for an answer it doesn't have.
See? Even your brain knows you're screwed.
The body's filling with adrenaline right now, whether you know it or not. The heart's beating faster. It's getting a little harder to breathe. The neurobiological system is telling it to run, but your knees are too weak to move.
Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice. We are all telling ourselves a story.
You're listening to Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. 100% listener-supported radio. Reporting to danger. Unafraid. Right here, where information never sleeps. Revolution Radio!
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Ravens.